Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Stuart A. Swordlow.
And Janet Diane Moria Swordlow.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for the almost last week of August and a few days before September. So next time we speak to you, there'll just be a couple of days till September.
Oh, it's a good thing you told them that, because otherwise how would they know?
They don't, because they're not very smart.
Yeah, they can't look at their own calendar and figure that out.
They can't figure a lot of things out, which is why we do this podcast. Anyway, and I have a story about the Postal Service, and it can be a little bit confusing, even to me, because nobody knows what's going on. Because of the news media, of course, says that Donald Trump is trying to destroy the U.S. Postal Service to ensure that the Americans will not be able to send their mail-in ballots. And that, of course, isn't true. It's really an hysteria by the demon crap party. And Nancy Pelosi insists that everybody, all the representatives, return to Washington to save the USPS. Actually, she did. We have to come back to the Washington because I think she takes speech lessons from whoever teaches Biden. Teaching it. And of course, the United States Postal Service has been in trouble for a lot of years, mostly because they are inefficient. They always have been. But ever since there have been fax machines and email and iPhones, smartphones, people are not sending regular postal mail anymore.
Well, not as much.
Unless they're sending, packages that have to be delivered, or if there's advertisement junk mail. It's like 90% junk mail.
I get a few bills.
And people mostly pay their bills online, and they do their banking. Nobody uses the mail except for certain things. So, and we've had a lot of trouble with our mail. For days, our mail's been going to a house down the street.
Several houses down the street.
Luckily, we live in a very friendly neighborhood where people bring us our mail, and so we get it, but, come on, it's not that difficult. There's not that many people here in town. But, of course, the Democrats are saying that it's too dangerous to vote in person because gathering by the hundreds, will be, coronavirus death to everybody.
They gather by the hundreds in their riots.
And so, President Trump said, if you can protest in person, you can vote in person.
Yeah.
Right? If you can go out in the street and scream and yell without a mask and break store windows, then you can stand in a line to vote in person.
And loot.
Yeah.
Steal.
That's not, if you could do that, you can vote. And the president has warned, and I agree, that allowing large-scale voting by mail is going to lead to fraud and a rigged election, and that's the truth, because already, and we have discussed this for the last few weeks, like look at Los Angeles, they have registered 117% of the population.
But they're not the only
Where'd that
ones.
come from?
It's all over the place.
It's all over the place, and ballots from South Carolina wound up in Maryland, and there's been fraud in Virginia. People stuffing, the mailmen putting ballots in places that don't even have a mailbox.
Well, there was one man who stole a mailman who
Yes,
stole all
they
the
stole
Trump
them. They
signs
stuck them in garbage pails. They stuck them in. People are getting, dead people are getting ballots. Pets. Come on, it's already fraud before it begins. It's ridiculous, and I agree. So, like I say, if you can go outside to smash and store windows without a mask and attack the police, then you can vote in person. And here's the thing, and I don't quite understand this myself, but there is some kind of a plan by the Postal Service, by the Joy, the guy's name who's in charge of the Postal Service, and he had taken post boxes away and changed things, and now he's we'll just leave it until the election. There's something going on. They're doing something to ensure that fake ballots do not get through. I don't know how they do it. I don't know what it is, but they're doing something.
Well, I told you, I still think that those big mail containers that are sitting on street corners are potential places for bombs to
Well,
be
they've
put.
taken a lot of them away.
Yes, and I think they should under the circumstances, unfortunately.
And in addition to all of this, for the last couple of years, of course, all of the mainstream media has been saying that the QAnon movement is a conspiracy and that it's some crazy person in his mother's basement making up stories and posting it and creating violent activities. And of course, we know that is not true. And this past week, Facebook announced it's banning hundreds of pages, groups, and Instagram accounts tied to the US-based militia organizations and QAnon, according to one of their posts. And of course, Twitter has been blocking things. And I mentioned Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of these social media. And Q says, when he posts, they say, if we're just a conspiracy theory, why is the mainstream media so afraid of us and tried to block us all the time? And the Facebook says they've been seeing growing movements that, while not directly organizing violence, have celebrated violent acts, shown that they have weapons, and suggest that they will use them, or have individual followers with patterns of violent behavior. Have you ever seen that on Q? I've read Q for the last 2.5 years, never, ever, ever promoted violence or agreed with it, ever.
But the thing that's always interesting to me when they ban things, the people run out to see what it is, so maybe...
Well, that's what I'm going to get to, if you will just let me finish talking. Anyway, they're banning a group that has done nothing wrong, but they think might do something wrong. And Facebook claims they've removed 980 groups, 520 pages, and 160 ads by militia organizations and those encouraging riots, including some that may have identified as Antifa. But, surprisingly, the Antifa accounts remain and include aggressive armed members who routinely organize protests over Facebook. Those are allowed to remain. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube block the truth, but allow fascists, Nazis, communists, Satanists, and pedophiles to remain on their sites. Okay, that tells you about freedom of speech in the United States.
You know what, maybe that people who advertise on those sites should stop advertising and funding them.
No, they're not going to do that because they have a lot of people following that. So they're going to continue to do that.
No, the advertisers, I said, should stop it.
I'm telling you, they're not going to stop it because a lot of people are reading that.
Well, I know they're not
and they're
going
getting
to,
a lot of
but I'm saying that's what they
coverage.
should do.
Now, Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh just dropped what they call the mother of all bombs on George Soros by ruling that Soros and affiliated Soros Open Society groups lose their protection of 1A, whatever that means, and can be treated as international threats. And this will impact their supporters in the U.S. and abroad. A Supreme Court ruling stripped Soros Open Society's entities of their rights because they were taking advantage of influencing U.S. policy with Soros' foreign organizations and operations, and now they are deemed foreign and have no U.S. right to free speech and activities and be considered threatening. Well, it's about time. Good. They should be going after Soros and removing his ability to fund Antifa and the communists. Next, Soros and Sons should be arrested and brought to trial. And I'm glad to see the Kavanaugh do that.
Whatever happened to Mrs. Soros?
I don't know, but I'm sure that she's either dead or close to it.
Dead or dead.
Mm-hmm. So in summary, the plaintiffs or the foreign affiliates are foreign organizations, and foreign organizations operating abroad possess no rights under the U.S. Constitution. And Kavanaugh says, we reverse the judgment of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit. It is so ordered. Now, this is interesting because that woman, Justice Kagan, took no part in the consideration or decision in this case. And I knew her father 30 years ago, and he was killed in a prison camp, and I saw him die. And it's very interesting to me. I was kind of shocked when I see her being named as a justice during the Democrats, I believe. I think it was Democrat. Anyway, I think she's up the butts of the Obama people, which is very sad. I might have met her once. I'm not sure. Now, early this past week, now this is a very interesting story, and it's related to all of what's going on, because there was a major security incident that was revealed at an international airport in Polk County, Florida. They call it International Airport, and that's probably because they have like little tiny flights to the Caribbean from there. Now, Lakeland Linder International Airport was the scene of a sudden emergency evacuation when a contractor opened a shipping container to unexpectedly find a massive guided missile inside.
What was that about?
I don't know, but I ordered one for my birthday.
Oh, well, maybe it came early.
I have many targets in mind. Initial local news reports indicated that airport personnel had no idea how it ended up at a major civilian airport.
I'd like to know that.
Only that the container also had parts of an aircraft inside, and that the shipment belonged to Draken International, Draco, a U.S. defense contractor based in the area which focuses on the development of tactical fighter aircraft. Now, the missile had a live warhead and, however, was not armed. Now, was this on a commercial flight? Was this on a freighter plane? And here's the thing, because it was near MacDill, the airport is near MacDill Air Force Base, which is in Tampa. And surrounding neighborhoods had to be evacuated given the huge size of the ordnance. This is not an accident.
No.
You don't mail order live missiles in a crate on a commercial flight. And here's my opinion, because it's kind of been dropped from this news. It's most likely a deep state plot to secretly move weapons to use in case they lose the election. And then they can fire it at their enemy because they would have nothing to lose after that.
Well, the thing is how many more of these things are...
Well,
that's what's scary
that's the next
to
thing,
me.
is that they thought they were going to get away with shipping it in a commercial like it was a toy.
But who loaded that darn thing?
Well, I'm telling you,
I'd like to
this
know
is like
all
the
that.
same kind of Wayfair scam where you order a table for $4 million and you get a child in a box. Well, this is the same kind of thing, only with a missile. MacDill Air Force Base is known for its secret space programs and secret things flying in the sky, even broad daylight. So I'm sure that if they did it there, it's in other places as well. And they're doing this. Pelosi, Schumer, Pencil Neck Shifty, all of these people are doing this so that if they lose the election, which they will, they're going to use this to attack the Republicans.
Well, they're already saying, and I've said this before, that they said if Trump, even if he loses, how are they going to get him out?
Because they know that the military will support Trump, and they will know that if he loses the election, it's because it was fraudulent. And they know this, and if Nancy Pants or anybody tries to get in the White House, they will be shot to death. And that's been stated. The military said there's no way those people are getting in the White House, period. So just keep that in mind. Now, speaking of people who maybe shouldn't be in power but are, Xi Jinping, who is the head of China, Chinese Communist Party, and their president, appears to be mounting dissent during this coronavirus scandemic. And by the way, China is also planning to release a Russia-style vaccine.
China?
Yeah. You got one from column A, one from column B. You want both? I give you both. I give you for the same price. Okay? Why you make a face like that?
No, I'm just looking at all the people out there
no
watching
appreciation of my
I
sense
see
of
there's
humor.
little Jimmy and little Mary and
Yeah.
Jill and
okay.
they're
How
all out
old are
there.
you? How old are you?
Yeah.
Now, and maybe lose my place, because Xi's senior allies have called for a Maoist purge of China's domestic security divisions, and they said it's time to turn the blade inward and scrape the poison off the bone. Whose bones?
I know.
Now, the party enforcers launched investigations into at least 21 police and judicial officials. Dozens more have been taken down in the weeks since. And so far, the most high-profile figure to face charges is the police chief of Shanghai. Now, President Xi is launching his own assault on the Chinese deep state, mirroring President Trump's animosity and distrust towards his own intelligence machine. During his 8 years in power, President Xi has made a big show of confronting corruption, but his critics say he's barely made a dent in it. But they've just redistributed the corruption. Instead of thinking, here, you just spread around corruption. Anyway, those who are loyal to the ruler can have whatever they want, but those who are not, you know what happens to them?
Bye-bye.
They get put in an egg roll and fried up. Now,
Not in the garden with Granny.
yes, and you know, President Xi wants to rule until at least 2035, a la Putin. And he is going to run for a third term as Communist Party leader in 2022. So perhaps, if this story is true, China is undergoing a similar internal conflict, Hong Kong is still a mess, and Taiwan actively is considering attacking the mainland. Especially, there's rumors they're thinking of attacking that dam in central China that's breaking apart, and then they would flood most of central and eastern China.
So is she a good president or a bad president? We don't know.
We don't know if she is he or not. We don't know. Now, you may have recalled last week when I think it was last week when I talked about the peace treaty between Israel and the United Arab
Abraham
Emirates.
Accord.
The
Yeah,
Abraham
that was
Accord,
last
and I
week.
said, watch other countries. And I said, Lebanon, didn't I not? Well, a recent statement by Lebanon's president suggested that he would be receptive to an agreement with Israel similar to the one signed in the United Arab Emirates. Hezbollah may be on its way out, but more importantly, a pact of brotherhood with Lebanon would be an element in the construction of the Third Temple, as it was in the days of King Solomon. Why? And I'll get to that in a moment. President Michel Aoun was asked if he would consider making peace agreement with Israel, as the United Arab Emirates did, and he said yes. Now, the explosion in the Beirut port, which killed a minimum 171, wounded 6,000, cost estimated 10 to 15 billion in property damage, and left 300,000 people homeless because of the explosion. They said was 2,750 tons of ammonium sulfate, but really we know was missile production. There's the missile stuff again. And you know, Hezbollah leader Syed Hassan Nasrallah had threatened to a rocket attack on an ammonia storage facility in Haifa in Israel 2 years ago. But after this explosion in Beirut, thousands of people took to the streets to protest the government, and the leading politicians did resign. But when you consider Israeli-Lebanese relations, it's important to note that Lebanon's flag prominently features a cedar, the national symbol of Lebanon, which is a massive conifer, and the tree appears in the Bible in several places, and King David praised them, hinting that they would play a role in the construction of the temple. In fact, David's son Solomon began to build the first temple in Jerusalem by turning to the government of Lebanon, which was at that time the Phoenicians, and the Phoenicians played an important role with Israel. And what people don't understand, and I was going to put this in the next book if I ever write a next book, which I really don't want to, but when you want me to, that people don't understand that King Solomon had the greatest navy in the world, even by today's standards. And how did he do this? Because he was partnered with the Phoenicians, who their name was not the Phoenicians. They were part Semitic people under the control of these Hebrews. And in fact, they spoke the same language as the Hebrews. And the Hebrew Solomon/Phoenician Navy, evidence of them has been found even in North America, South America, Africa, Australia, and the South Pacific. So this is very symbolic. The cedars from Lebanon were also used as a major element in the construction of the second temple. Now, there's a rabbi in Israel named Rabbi Berger. His first name, I'm sure, is not Ham.
Could be.
He'd be Rabbi Ham
It's
Berger.
my favorite kind of burger.
Yeah, but I don't think he is. And you know, gematria is the valuation of Hebrew words, because Hebrew letters are actually numbers, and Hebrew words and sentences are actually formulas. And so the gematria, or the numerical value in Hebrew of Donald Trump, is 424. But when you look at the Hebrew word for the Messiah, Moshiach ben David, or the Messiah from the house of David, it's 424. I'm getting goosebumps. Is Donald Trump the Messiah? So, according to this rabbi, it indicates that the U.S. president is bringing about the conditions for the Messiah and the third temple. Now, he doesn't like Netanyahu because he says Netanyahu is a man of war, like King David, is not suited to build a third temple. The man of peace who comes after him will build the temple. Could that be the Gantz? They're going to share the prime minister? So the rabbi noted that there's an unnaturally quick transition from war to peace, and that was prophesied by the prophet Isaiah, because Isaiah is the one who said, and this is actually engraved in front of the United Nations, a joke that they are, but it says in the Bible, thus, he will be judged among the nations and arbitrate for the many peoples, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not take up sword against nation, they shall never again know war. So I hope that comes true. And related to this is another story from Israel by Rabbi Azariah Ariel. Ariel means Lion of God. And he traveled to an undisclosed ranch in Israel to lead the Temple Institute's effort to raise a red heifer for performing the commandment of producing and purifying the ashes of the red heifer. And they've inspected a current red heifer. Apparently there's 3 of them. There's 2 of them. One of the 2 is very viable, according to this rabbi. They were born in the early part of 2020, and the ordinance of the red heifer is inscribed in the Bible, and it's a ritual law that God has commanded for the children of Israel to bring a red cow without blemish. There can't have any spots or anything on it. So there's no defect on it, and no yoke has been put on it, so it could never have been used in work and labor. The purifying power of the ashes of the red heifer poses the ability to overcome the spiritual impurity contracted via physical contact with a corpse or cadaver, which I don't understand but you would do that. And the ashes of the red heifer would ennoble the Kohanim, or the temple priests, to achieve the highest level of spiritual purity, allowing them to resume their work in the holy temple. So it looks like these peace agreements, the explosion, the fires, the virus, and so on, are all part of the preparation for the third temple.
It's part of the plagues.
Now here, another Israeli story. This is actually quite fascinating to anyone who knows about history, because the Israeli Air Force jets participated in several exercises over Germany this past week, including flying over the former Nazi concentration camp Dachau, marking the first time Israeli jets had ever entered German airspace. And when they did, the moment that they entered German airspace, Luftwaffe commander Lieutenant General Ingo Gerhardt welcomed the Israeli Air Force into German airspace, and he said, "On behalf of the German Air Force, it is an honor for me to welcome the Israeli Air Force entering German airspace for the first time in history." And then the Major General of Israeli jets, General Amikam Norkin, responded that he was proud to lead his country's first deployment into Germany. And he said to the Germans, "It is a testimony to our strong ties and mutual commitment. I salute you and your Air Force." Now that's come a long way from World War II, I'll tell you what. And also for the rest of the world, it gives a bit of hope. And so, interestingly, and I looked this up and I remembered stories, and the Israeli Air Force has recently been entering the airspace of Greece, Cyprus, Romania, Bulgaria, and Ukraine. So something's going on, and I think that if the EU is falling apart, and these countries that I just mentioned are going to be in need of protection, they're going to ask the Israeli Air Force to protect them. especially now that the new president of Ukraine is Jewish. And we know that countries like Hungary and Romania and Poland, they are against what the EU is doing. They don't want any Islamic influence. And so I think we're seeing a tremendous change in something going on here. Now, to change the subject completely, one of my favorite drinks is coffee, as you know. And I always have coffee in the morning. But now, and I've mentioned coffee stories before, but this one says from Australia, increasing coffee intake may protect your liver and help prevent liver-related deaths. And this is published in the Elementary Pharmacology and Therapeutics Group researchers in Australia. And they looked at other studies involving coffee and liver disease and found that drinking more than 2 cups of coffee a day may protect against deaths related to liver disease. In addition, they had a 38% reduction in hepatocellular carcinoma risk and a 40% reduction risk in chronic liver disease. And if you drank more than 4 cups, there was a 71% reduction in death.
In these books, do we talk about coffee?
I think so.
Yeah, so if you want to
I've
learn,
always told about coffee.
because to me, why do a study? All they have to do is know our work.
Yes, and I'm
So-
sure that I would have done it for like 10% of their
Yeah.
billions of dollars.
So you don't even have to read the study, just read our books.
Now, it says high coffee consumption has been correlated with improved insulin sensitivity, suggesting that coffee may exert protective effects through insulin, so it protect diabetics by drinking coffee.
Or people with low pancreas function.
And so I will tell you, in the morning I have a coffee cocktail, which is organic black coffee, 1 spoon of organic cinnamon powder, 1 spoon of organic raw honey, and 1 spoon of organic cacao or cocoa.
You have a whole spoon of cinnamon powder?
Maybe half.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Wow,
it's
then-
really, really delicious and perks you up and cleans your liver and makes you tingly all over your body.
And that's why you're so happy and perky all day long, right?
Well, for 5 minutes anyway. And finally, before I hand over the microphone to Janae, I received a video this morning from our friend, our doctor in Ecuador. Guess what? Ecuador had a surprise snowstorm in the summertime. Heavy snow in Ecuador in the summer. Seriously, that's not global warming. In fact, it's been snowing from Argentina all the way up to Ecuador and even into Brazil. And I just saw a story yesterday that the mountains of Victoria, Australia had a blizzard. And you read an article the other day that said the rain-snow line is creeping towards Michigan. Oh, I can't wait.
I know.
Well, I'll do the end stuff after you're done.
Okay. So I don't have as many stories as last week, so that's a good thing. 'Cause last week was a lot of news, but just a few catch-up things. So one, I did tell you.
I don't want to catch up on that.
Well, we're going to catch up. The Seattle Police Chief Carmen Best, I told you about, retired. Well, guess what? The faith leaders and leaders from the communities of color, because like I said, we're colored
I have a
too,
caller.
and police reform advocates are now calling on Seattle Police Chief Carmen Best to reconsider her decision to retire, because they're saying who else would come in and find her, and that Seattle basically is now considered a liability.
It's gone. It's doomed.
Yeah, so they're saying, basically they're saying that nobody else is going to come in anyway. So would you please come back? They said we'll have a troubled time trying to find real talent to come and replace her. Who would want to come to a city where the chief can be so maliciously targeted via the city budget? And it was a lot worse than a city budget. They didn't give her anything to work with. Our city right now is in the public mind is an occupational hazard. Yes.
You think?
And they said a recent Gallup poll found that more than 80% of Black Americans favor a police presence
Yes,
in their area
right.
equal to current levels or more.
Or more, that's right.
So Black Lives Matter, like we said, is not speaking for Black people.
No.
It's like saying the Ku Klux Klan speaks for white people. It doesn't work that way.
No, that's correct.
Yes. Now, also, apparently there's a growing pattern emerging of minority communities pushing back on cuts to police departments across the country. However, last month, leaders in the Black community of New York City called on the New York Police Department to handle the recent crime surge in the city. They demanded that the plainclothes anti-crime unit that Mayor Bill, whatever his name is, de
De Blasio
Blasio,
Werner Jr.
yeah, German guy,
That's his real name.
had recently dismantled. They want it reinstated. And now, I've told you the statistics before, but now shootings for the week went up 277% compared to 2019, and victims are up 253% compared to 2019 in New York City. So really horrible.
You know why?
news.
Everybody's leaving New York. It has to be ghost town.
Well, and then Portland, I just wanted to catch up just a minute there because newly elected District Attorney Mike Schmidt refuses to prosecute Portland rioters, and then he goes on to admit that he's an old buddy with an Antifa militant campaigning to defund the police, abolish prisons, and demand reparations. And this guy goes on to say, the DA, just before I was sworn in as DA, I sat down with an old buddy of mine, he's known as Awkward, for an interview about my priorities as district attorney and rethinking what public safety means. So apparently he's given a series of social justice leaders features conducted by this self-described anti-fascist and old-time buddy of the DA, again named Awkward. So Awkward then...
His name is Awkward.
That's what he goes by. Who knows what his
Why
real
would
name
you do that?
Well, because people who hide behind these false names, as we've told you before, watch out for them. So Awkward called attention to Schmidt's stance on not criminalizing protesters who are just exercising their First Amendment rights. Schmidt stated that the violent Portland riots are nothing like the Armageddon that Trump administration is trying to portray our city, calling the Burnside Bridge die-in on June 2nd a beautiful demonstration. Now, this dystopian image that is being painted nationally is not at all what it looks like on our streets, said the DA. We have amazing people out every night talking about the systemic racism in our criminal justice system. However, overnight, the Antifa rioters shut down streets, started fires in North Portland, caused a car accident, and responding officers were attacked with concrete, lasers, paint bombs, and ball bearings from slingshots.
But you can't vote in person, but you could do that.
This is very peaceful, according to their DA. Who would want this
Unbelievable.
person? And Trevor Wilder Smith, who's a 45-year-old Antifa supporter, was charged with attempted assault of a police officer, and he was quickly released without bail. And then he celebrated on social media Schmidt's new policy to limit criminal charges against protesters. Why anybody would want to be in these cities anymore,
You know what?
God only knows.
People don't even bother selling your houses because they're worth zero.
That's
Just
right,
get
get out
the F out
and be
before
safe.
the volcanoes blow up.
And not only that, but I mean, they're coming into the neighborhoods and the
I mean,
residences.
I would just get the hell out of
It's just
Seattle, Portland,
horrible.
and California is on fire.
Yes, so soon, if you have a place to go, and even if you don't make a place, because it's very sad what's happening on the West Coast.
It's very sad and unnecessary, but you people didn't stop it.
Why do you think they're having all those fires out there?
Because it's hell.
Demon territory. Tennessee. Tennessee withdraws a child well-being check plan after a massive backlash. Good for you, Tennessee. A $1 million initiative to conduct well-being checks for all children in Tennessee from birth to age 18 to verify their well-being in light of school closures. So what they're basically saying is that the home is not a safe place for anybody, and you have to have the government come in and check on your children. So the parents got upset about it,
Love that.
and Republican Representative Bruce Griffey said it's a horrendous overreach by government. I'm at a loss that Republicans are promoting a nanny state. It's crazy. Normally, I'd see something like this from the Chinese government. So now the governor's office has announced that the initiative, as originally proposed, has been withdrawn. That doesn't mean that they're going to stop moving it forward. They're just going to give it different clothes. So be sure that you keep your eyes open and don't let this go through. And also in Tennessee, Rutherford County Schools, known as RCS, Rutherford County Schools in Tennessee, have asked parents to sign forms agreeing not to watch their children's online classroom sessions.
Oh, I heard about that
So
stuff.
why would they do that? Why?
You know why? I'll tell you why.
You tell me why.
Because on the online, and not only there, but in California as well, these children are being taught Nazi symbols. They're being taught about communism, Antifa, and horrible, horrible things. And the parents aren't aware of it because they're not watching it.
Okay, so they don't want that. They're saying they're making parents sign a form saying that they will not.
That's ridiculous.
I know,
How dare you do
they
that?
said that they can have permission of the instructor to watch. So again, if you're getting these things, they're indoctrinating your children.
I mean, if you are a parent that allow that, then you're brain dead.
Yeah. So who knows how many other states? This is just what's in the
I'm
news.
telling you, I know in California they're doing
But
it.
and then it gets worse, people. In Utah students can face misdemeanor charges if they refuse to comply with Governor Gary Herbert's mandatory mask order, including kindergartners. Kindergartners.
Do you really think a kindergartner is going to wear a mask all day? Do you
Apparently,
really think so?
Herbert's spokeswoman Anna Lennart confirmed the potential criminal penalty. Imagine a
For a
kindergarten
child.
is going to get a
For a
criminal
5-year-old.
penalty on their police report for life.
These people should be executed. Execute them.
Yeah, confirmed the potential criminal penalty for violating the requirement for all who enter schools to wear masks.
They should not be allowed in the teaching environment. These are criminals. These are demonic, and they're not human beings.
Schools have the choice to push students who won't wear a mask to do online work, but they do give exceptions for medical conditions and during breakfast or lunch.
Oh, how nice of
Because
them.
then it doesn't spread during
Maybe they should make
breakfast or
them eat
lunch.
the food through the mask.
They might. They said if a criminal prosecution is sought, a school employee or a student, including those in kindergarten, could face a Class B misdemeanor. This is the standard for any violation of a public health order and can be punished with a sentence of up to 6 months in jail and a fine of $1,000 for a student. Kindergarten.
You know what? Whoever said that should be in jail for the life.
This is the same level of charge as a first offense for driving drunk. Now, isn't this ridiculous?
Compare that to a 5-year-old innocent child that can't put a mask on their face. Like the woman that was thrown off the
Yes, that was
jet
terrible.
blue because a 2-year-old couldn't keep
Yes.
the mask on. The airline should be put out of business.
Yes, and that one was traveling with what,
6 children.
Yes, 6 children. They threw her
And
and
the
her
passengers
children off.
defended her.
Yes. It's
I
terrible.
thought all the passengers should have walked off the flight.
Yeah.
That airline, JetBlue, should go out of business forever.
Horrible. And said at least one district in Washington County, this is still Utah, they came up with a compromise that allowed students and staff to wear a clear plastic face shield instead of the cloth mask. But the governor squashed that idea and said or was reported that one day after schools opened, pictures circulated of many wearing the shields. So then the governor modified his school mask order to forbid plastic shields as an alternative to the fitted mask, the cloth mask, things which don't work. They have been found to be, he claims, they have not been found to be as effective at preventing spread of the coronavirus. Now, one of the parents, as well as many others, are now removing their children from the district schools. Good for them.
Good.
While others are planning to protest the statewide school mask mandate. And the mother said it's totally unconstitutional. It's not even giving
Yes.
us a choice. I think we should have a right to choose whether or not my kids
Right.
have to wear it.
Right.
She said, I just think if things keep going this way, there's going to be an uprising.
Yeah, I hope so.
And it's going to get ugly.
And you know what? It's not a law. It's an executive order. It's not a law because the legislature didn't vote it into law.
That's right.
So you can't be arrested for something that's not a law.
Many parents are convinced, that officials are exaggerating the dangers of coronavirus.
Okay,
So just so the government can have more control over their lives.
so I just read an article from a nurse who's in a COVID unit, and she said there is nobody there, but the people that are coming in with lung problems is from wearing the mask, and they got staph infection from breathing in polluted air from their mask.
And we have been reporting on that all along about what happens when you keep that thing over your face.
It's
all the time.
dangerous.
Yes, it is very dangerous. Lung infections, bacterial
I
infections.
swear, Nancy Pelosi and all, they should be
Terrible.
forced to wear a mask till kingdom come, and they die.
Now, this house, which is interesting for a lot of reasons, was recently blasted all over one of the news services. It's a house in Missouri, not that big, built in 1875, but it is 3 stories. It's got 2 bedrooms and I think 1 bath. On the market for $350,000. The strange thing is that underneath it there is a 2-story, 2,500 square foot, 9-cell, fully functioning jail in the basement. Has 9 cells, as I said, 2 underground levels, multiple metal bunk beds in each cell, and it's got a check-in room and all kinds of things. And it's
Why?
And they don't say. And they said the listing doesn't explain how the elaborate prison came to be included in the home, but the realtors boast that it's the best part of the property. So who would want that? And when we're talking about all this human trafficking that's going on, it's like, and if this is only one.
So you're going to look at this house for sale and you say, why is there a 9-cell prison underneath this house?
Why would I want to buy that?
And there's no explanation for it. And you're going to buy the house.
And it's fully functional. The pictures are listed. If you look at the link, it says the listing further exclaims that the possibilities are amazing with this property.
What, you could put your guests in there if you don't like them?
It's terrible. So I don't know what's going on. But like I said,
grandma in there?
Maybe, but 9 cells, you can put grandma and everybody in there. So
something's very weird with that house.
Yes, and how many more houses like that are out there, especially with all this human trafficking?
How could there not be an explanation? Where's the previous owners? Did anyone ask them why they have that?
I just think it's very odd.
It's a very odd, yeah.
Very odd.
A little bit.
And of course, we all know about the Democratic National
At least we have a
Convention.
place to put Nancy.
What was interesting was during the Muslim Delegates Assembly, the video of the live streamed event shows A.J. Durrani leading the Pledge of Allegiance, but leaving out the important part, which is under God. He read the whole pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, period. They forgot under God.
Well, I would have stopped and said, excuse me, did you forget something?
Well, it was live streamed, so he just kept right on going. I guess they couldn't have, and I guess they must have.
Somebody had me standing near him.
And somebody had to say it's okay. Now, he was elected to be a superdelegate for the 2016 to 2020 term of the Democratic National Committee.
That explains it.
And the pledge has included the phrase, one nation under God, since Congress passed a law signed by President Eisenhower in 1954.
Mm-hmm.
The reason they put it on there is because they put it on as a response to the Cold War era's threats of communism and the ideas of Marxist-Leninist countries. And ironically, many leaders of the Democratic Party are once again advocating Marxism, the revisionist history, and the Black Lives Matter organization. So therefore, we should not really be surprised at the omission, because this presidential, he's not a nominee anymore, and he's now the candidate. It's apparently he pledged to go after nuns for refusing to violate their consciences and providing abortifacients. I think that's to give people things to abort them. You can do it medically. Mm-hmm. This is Biden now. He pledged to go after nuns. Catholic churches, believe it or not, denied Biden Holy Communion.
Hi, I'm Joe Biden's husband.
Yeah. Catholic churches denied Biden Holy Communion for his aggressively pro-abortion policy positions. Biden signaled support for using taxpayer dollars to fund abortions, and of course that directly contradicts the most basic of biblical principles under God.
Because he's a pedophile and a Satanist.
And Kamala Harris, her anti-Catholic posture led her to fight the confirmation of Judge Brian Busker over his membership in the Knights of Columbus, which is a Catholic fraternal service order. And when she was Attorney General of California, she launched an intrusive investigation into a journalist for taking undercover videos that exposed Planned Parenthood for trafficking aborted baby body parts. This is who you want for your president and vice president?
Scamala Harris.
Well, that's a good one. Now, moving along to the Republican side, President Donald Trump revealed that he spoke to God about the economy amid the coronavirus pandemic.
I spoke to God too about that.
And God told him he's going to have him rebuild the greatest economy in the history of the world.
I hope so.
He spoke at a small rally in Mankato, Minnesota. Mankato. He revealed that he had a conversation with God, and he said to God, you know what that is? That's right, that's God's testing me. He said, you know, you did it once, and I said, did I do a great job, God? I'm the only one who could do it. And he said, that you shouldn't say that. Now we're going to have you do it again. And I said, okay, I agree, you got me. And now I'm doing it again, and you see the kind of numbers that we're putting up. They're unbelievable. Best job ever, 3 months, more jobs in the last 3 months than ever before. So God and Trump are like this.
Well, good.
We need that.
Because we need God to help us.
That's right. And also in Mankato, is that how you say it? Mankato, Minnesota, he also said, we are going to win 4 more years. And then after that, we'll go another 4 years because you know what? They spied on my campaign.
So these 4 don't count.
No, he said we should get a redo of 4 years.
Well, you know what? I actually agree.
And earlier this
He's wasted
month,
all that time on the nonsense.
and fighting impeachment instead of doing what he came to do.
Right. Thanks, Nancy Pants.
Earlier this month, Trump took to Twitter to once again share a doctored video that Time put on their front cover, where they showed him campaigning for office indefinitely, because you're speaking about President Xi and Putin, and now we got Trump. And this was titled on Time magazine, How Trumpism Outlasts Trump. And then this cover featured campaign yard signs for Trump for every 4 years from 20 to 2044, but the president retweeted it and he added Trump 2048. So yeah, and then he said it needs to grow by 4 years at a time, then 100 years at a time, then eventually larger numbers until it reads Trump forever. So then Trump last year also suggested in a tweet that his supporters might demand he serve more than 2 terms as president.
They already do.
And then he joked about serving more than 2 terms at his campaign rally in May of 2019, when he told a crowd that he could potentially serve a 5th term in the White House. And a month before that, he told a crowd he might remain in the Oval Office at least for 10 or 14 years. So who knows what's going to happen out there?
Well, he said that we may not know the results of the election for years and years, and so there it'll be.
And while they're getting it done,
So you know what? Maybe they should have the mail-in ballots, because then there will never be an answer, and he will just stay in the office.
Because we won't know. Mm-hmm. So, and that's going to provoke those people with those hidden missiles to do something.
Yeah, they should drop it on Nancy's house.
And President Trump brought forth another unproven coronavirus cure. They're making fun of it, of course, but apparently he's expressed enthusiasm for the Food and Drug Administration to permit an extract from the Oleander plant to be marketed as a dietary supplement or approved as a drug to cure COVID-19. Mm-hmm. It's an experimental botanical extract promoted by Trump, and it's embraced by the Housing and Urban Development Secretary Ben Carson, who's a very dignified and qualified medical doctor.
Right, Seventh-day Adventist.
And also by MyPillow founder and CEO Mike Lindell. So they're claiming there's no public data showing that it's ever been tested in animals or humans for its efficacy, but the extract has shown evidence of inhibiting the virus in a non-peer-reviewed study.
From Oleander.
Mm-hmm. So it says that there's a statement, because people were saying that Carson is not known for his work with infectious diseases. Rather, he's a pediatric neurosurgeon.
He still knows what he's doing.
He knows what he's doing. So that then the task force came out with a statement saying to suggest that Secretary Carson, who is a world-renowned expert in the medical field, should not be involved is not only absurd but unhelpful in our collective fight to eradicate the pandemic.
He knows more than Fauci.
Yes. And did you know, now I told you before all this ongoing things at Joint Base Andrews, well, President Trump's jet, while it had several people on board, supposedly including him, Melania, and Barron, was almost hit by a small drone as it approached. Yep. So they said several people saw it. It was yellow and black, shaped like a cross, off to the right side of the plane. But then this article says it's difficult for aviation safety to verify the events because they happen so fast. And they claim that there are thousands of them reported.
That's terrible.
Yeah. So of course they want to regulate them more. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, they really should, because they're dangerous.
Well, this next one I thought again was kind of interesting, because this again, Trump mini rally, Yuma, Arizona. Listen to this. Again, he claims he should be able to serve 3 terms because he claims his first term was obstructed. This is what he actually said by former President Barack Obama and Democratic at that time he was a nominee, Joe Biden. He said, considering that we caught President Obama and sleepy Joe Biden spying on our campaign treason, we'll probably be entitled to another 4 more years after that. So he used treason with these 2 gentlemen.
Well,
if you want to call them that. I say Democrats, and treason is treason, and we all know what the penalty for treason is. So,
execution.
Yeah. Now, God bless him, Trump has created a new bioethics advisory board. And guess what? One of the first things that they did, they rejected 13 out of 14 projects using body parts from aborted babies. Good for him. So apparently that there are miscarried babies, unfortunately, that can be used if the tissue is needed, but researchers are saying that human fetal tissue has not been successful. Researchers at the Charlotte Lozier Institute said there are ethical alternatives available to scientists that do not involve the destruction of a human life. Aborted baby parts were used in the experiments taken from healthy 4.5 to 6-month-old babies. And several years ago, the Center for Medical Progress undercover investigation uncovered evidence of abortionists allegedly putting women's lives at risk by altering abortion procedures to better harvest aborted baby parts. In other words, they took them while the babies were alive, and they dissect the babies alive.
I don't want to hear that. I can't even hear.
So thank God that Trump stepped in here, has a new bioethics advisory board, and is stopping a lot of this. So that's great. Now, QAnon. Trump said that he knows very little about the controversial conspiracy theory known as QAnon, but he is grateful for the support of its followers. QAnon, according to this article, began as a fringe internet conspiracy alleging, among other things, that Trump is secretly fighting against the deep state factions of powerful satanic pedophiles who are plotting against him and his supporters.
So that's true.
I don't know much about the movement other than I understand they like me very much, which I appreciate. Then he went on to attempt to portray QAnon believers as people who, like him, which is true, are troubled by crime in large U.S. cities. And he says, these are people that don't like seeing what's going on in places like Portland, Chicago, and New York, and other cities and states. I've heard these are people that love our country, and they just don't like seeing it. So I don't really know anything about it other than they do supposedly like me, and they would like to see they would also like to see problems in these areas go away. And then a reporter informed Trump that QAnon actually believes this, that you are secretly saving the world from satanic cults of pedophiles and cannibals. And he replied, well, I haven't heard that, but is that supposed to be a bad thing or a good thing?
Right.
If I can save the world from problems, I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to put myself out there. And we're saving the world from a radical left philosophy that will destroy this country. And when this country is gone, the rest of the world would follow.
And after that, the Google searches for Q went up into the sky. So the stupid moron reporters that tried to trash Q actually have brought people to it.
Yeah. So what's interesting as well is because this is the first time that he's officially addressed it, whereas before
Well, he can't say, yes, I know about him, but he can't say that.
No, he just says, I've heard about him, and they're supporting me, and so on and so forth. So that's okay. That's how it gets out there. We have to start small. And in France, moving right along, in France, did you hear about this one? They found at least 15 horses dead this year with body parts missing. Ears, eyes, pieces of
aliens
have been taken while the horses were still alive. And the police have no suspects or motives, but they say they're investigating whether the attacks are part of a twisted fetish, sadistic ritual, or online challenge. One of the owners said that there were signs of a struggle in the field and would have taken a team of people to bring the horse down, which belonged to him. The attacks have increased in recent weeks, with at least 5 incidents reported since the start of this month. The attacks are not specific to a region. They have been reported across the east, west, and north of the country. In 2016, a similar case of mutilation was reported in Belgium when a horse had its ear cut off. Then another case occurred in France in 2014. And cases in the UK have been reported as far back as 2002, with one attack in Cornwall in 2012 to satanic rituals. Police near Lyon, where the most recent case was discovered, said they linked the latest horse mutilation to about 15 other mysterious acts of torture and mutilation of live horses around France these last weeks. Why would people do such things? It's terrible what's happening.
Well, I don't know if that's a true story like that.
Yeah, that's what they say. It's been going on for a while. Florida Keys. What can happen in Florida, right?
Florida. Just say the name and you know it's not a good story.
It says with 700 that they're releasing 750 million genetically engineered mosquitoes in the Florida Keys in 2021 and 2022.
Well, yeah, because Florida doesn't have enough bugs.
I know. Against the objection of many local residents and a coalition of environmental advocacy groups. Now, apparently, what these are females that they're genetically modified, so when they breed, I guess whatever they breed dies. So they're trying to breed it with this.
Why don't they release that into the Congress?
That would be nice. It says that they're hoping that this breed of genetically modified mosquitoes breeds with a species of mosquitoes that carry several deadly diseases such as Zika, Dung, chikungunya, and yellow fever. So only the
Sounds like
female,
a salad in a Mexican restaurant.
only the female mosquitoes bites for blood. Males feed on nectar only, and males are not a carrier for those diseases. Well, speaking of Q, Qantas. Did you hear about this story? Qantas denies it's part of a flying conspiracy after disturbing Freemason and New World Order symbols are spotted on the engines of a national
so
carrier
it's on the
plane.
plane, but they deny it.
Yeah.
That it's painted on the plane.
Well, actually, it was with yellow tape on black engine covers. So viewers spotted it, and the Qantas has dismissed the symbols as mere engine art from a Da Vinci Code fan. Engine art.
I think so.
Now, apparently, some of the remarks that people wrote in is it's funny that they're members of the One World Alliance, and another one said Q versus Satan. What does Qantas think about that? So who knows? And of course, UFOs, that continues to be in the news. And the Pentagon announced that they're going to establish a task force to detect, analyze, and catalog unidentified aerial phenomena. But it's not clear how the new task force relates to the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program known as AATIP.
MOUSC.
AATIP was formed in 2007, supposedly ceased operations in 2012, but guess what? 2017, the New York Times said the Department of Defense was still investigating potential episodes of unidentified flying objects.
Oh, please, they already know what they are.
Now, Luis Elizondo, who's former head of the AATIP, said that people should pay attention to the comments that the government is actually making about UFOs. So, here we go. The Department of Defense said it hopes to improve its understanding of and gain insight to the nature and origin of UAPs, and the mission of the task force is to detect, analyze, and catalog UAPs that could potentially pose a threat to U.S. national security. In June, Florida Senator Marco Rubio, acting chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, instructed the Director of National Intelligence, the Secretary of Defense, and other agency heads to compile data on unidentified aerial phenomena. The committee remains concerned that there is no unified, comprehensive process within the federal government for collecting and analyzing intelligence on unidentified aerial phenomena, despite the potential threat.
They already know what it is. The last 70 years, they know what it is.
So in July, the Times reported that a small group of government officials and scientists believe objects of undetermined origin have crashed to Earth and been retrieved. An astrophysicist who worked as a subcontractor and a consultant for the Pentagon UFO program and now works for defense contractor Aerospace Corporation said he gave briefings on the recovery of unexplained objects to staff members of the Senate Armed Services Committee and the Senate Intelligence Committee in October 2019. And the U.S. Air Force Academy, guess what, is expanding their space education curriculum. They are now going to be offering courses in space, law, strategy, and operations. They already build and operate satellites, and they're also going to be adding a minor in space warfighting. How about that? So they're beefing up their content of its space program to support the needs of the U.S. Space Force. We want to retain the position as the premier path to joining the Space Force as a commissioned officer.
Well, you know that I'm going to be at the space conference in a few days.
That's right. That's be interesting. And some people, some scientists now are saying the moon is drifting away from the Earth.
Oh my gosh.
Based on the firing laser beams at reflector panels that were placed on the moon.
Maybe they pushed it with the laser beams.
Maybe. So I thought that was kind of interesting. The moon's just drifting away.
Goodbye.
Now this one I have reported on actually quite a bit. I think you have too, on and off since 2018, when Oumuamua first appeared in our solar system.
I like you.
It seemed to be long and thin and cigar-shaped and tumbling end over end.
Sounds like me.
So, under close observations, it showed it was accelerating as if something was pushing it, and scientists still don't know why. And the explanation at the time was maybe it was propelled by an alien machine, such as a light sail, which would be a machine
Listen to me. An advanced alien technology is not going to use a light sail.
No, but that's what they have to tell people. So anyway, they have a new study now following up on that. They're saying they still think that it's alien, and they're still bringing that out forward, and they're saying it's still out there.
Because it was and is alien.
Yeah, the main proponent of this argument was Avi Loeb, a Harvard University astrophysicist. And while most scientists think the acceleration was likely due to natural phenomena, he says probably not, and published a new study August 17th in the Astrophysical Journal Letters, along with D.M. Huang, an astrophysicist at the Korean Astronomy and Space Science Institute, and they argue that the old theory could not work in the real world, which means that most likely we have been visited by advanced aliens.
Yeah, a long time ago.
And Mr. or Dr. whatever he is, Loeb, has a book coming out in January called Extraterrestrial, the First Sign of Intelligent Life Beyond Earth. That's kind of a oxymoron.
It's not the first sign, no.
And then this was interesting because tacked into this story, now there's another, apparently, they're calling Oumuamua an interstellar interloper. They've now observed a second one, which they're calling Borisov.
Mm.
So, who knows what's out there?
Maybe that's Uma's boyfriend looking for
Or a child, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But what's interesting, and we keep telling you, is that you're going to be our staged alien invasion next. I mean, every time we turn around, there's something
We've
weird
already
going on.
been invaded.
Yeah.
So you have new webinar ideas?
Well, we're working on it, so as soon as that's
Yeah.
available, that'll be up.
Yeah. So we don't know when. Most likely not going to start in September.
We'll probably start in September. We just
But
have to
not
figure it
that much
out.
time left to do it.
Well, I mean, it's not going to be like
Anyway.
September 1.
So the space conference, I'll be there August 31st and September 1st. And guess what I heard today?
What?
Who's going to be in the area at that time? Vice President Pence. He probably wants to talk to me.
That could be.
It's okay. I'll give him a reading.
Do you think he's read your Montauk Alien Connection book where you talk about
Probably
aliens
not.
in here and all
Probably
your other
not.
history, galactic history? I bet you all these things sound like things you've said many years, a long time ago.
And I would encourage you to sign up for the Global Night Symposium in Sterling Heights, Michigan at the end of October. The links are on our site. Are they on Facebook as well?
Yeah, and you just got to scroll a
Yeah,
little
so
bit more.
you need to sign up for that because it's going to be quite amazing. So, do you have anything else to say? 'Cause
Well, I want to remind you, get your membership at expansions.com. I think we had an extra book in here last time for whatever reason, but we've got a wonderful series of books that will help you in everything from the spiritual to the mind to the body. We showed you that earlier. So all kinds of fabulous books you want to add to your library. And I'm going to tell you, some of these books are not going to be available on Kindle because they will not publish the information
because they have truth in them.
that we have listed from various sources from the internet. So one little push of the button and the information is gone. So some of these you'll find and some of these you won't find on there. But these are all books that you want to have in your library. Say no to mind control, your health and healing, your spirituality. We have it all on our website.
And so I just want to end by telling you to expect shocking activities and revelations in September and October.
You're going to do shocking things?
I always do, but not coming from me.
Oh.
And you will see this on even mainstream media and beyond. So be prepared for September and October. It's going to be quite a roller coaster ride.
Already been.
Well, you think so?
Yes.
Wait.
Wow.
Like Wednesday said in the Addams Family. Wait.
Yeah. Expansions.com, get your membership so you can stay in touch with us on a daily basis because we have so much on our website that we tell you about every day, and this is a tiny little snippet that you get once a week on our podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for commenting and for your likes and for your shares especially so we can get the word out.
And so with that, we will see you next week. And remember, where we go one, we go all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.